doing something that's worth sharing, you don't need to pay people to talk about it. You can just do it.
Let's get to your legendary story, an inspiring one. When you were in your 20s, you had gotten out of college, you were still living home with your parents, and you had this aspiration, but you were not happy with your jobs. I think it was early 1998. You sort of decided you're going to do something. You took out every credit card you could to have access to cash to get that startup capital. And then describe the, I think it was you, Shep, the precipitating event, I think in June of 1998, that finally got you to jump in what could have been very cold water. Describe that day and your parents' rather shocked reaction that night when you came home and said what you had done.
So, Steve, to answer your question, I had my review at work. I was working at an ad agency on Madison Avenue, and they told me to think inside the box. And I was like, think inside the box. That's not what we wanted to do. And so I called Ian, and I said, I think I'm going to quit. He said, okay. And then I went and I quit. And he didn't believe that I quit. And he quit 5 minutes later. So we got on the train, got on the bar car, had a couple of drinks on the way home, told our parents that we quit, and they were furious at us. And ever since then, we haven't looked back. We've never been afraid to take risks because
they begged you to go back and beg for forgiveness, right?
They certainly did. And I think at that point in our careers, we had nothing to lose, and we had passion, and we believed in what we were doing. And so the idea was to make people, feel good and express themselves. And so, whether it was you went to the Vineyard or Nantucket, or you liked blue fishing or striped bass or martini and cigar or lacrosse, it seemed to be universally liked, that people had passions, and that the idea was to bring your relaxed state of mind with you whenever a tie was necessary. So our ties brought people together.
So why neckties? I know you've said you didn't have to worry about sizing, but what drew you to neckties as to start this thing?
Well, I think there's a couple things. One thing Shep noticed early on, and I did too, he had a couple of nice ties, the silk printed Hermes Ferragamo type motif. And he noticed very quickly that if he dressed like the CEOs did, they would sort of notice him a little bit more. And we noticed really quickly, I had one suit from Brooks Brothers that I got at the outlet. And if I wore a nice tie, people would say you look nice. If I didn't, they wouldn't say anything, but it was the same suit and the same shirt. So we very quickly noticed that a tie said something about you, more so than anything else. And so
it's sort of the apparel version of the cover of a book.
Exactly. And so we were having trouble finding ties with motifs that we really liked. Like Shep said, we like to fish and sail and play golf and travel and do all those types of things. And so we decided to design ties specifically starting from Martha's Vineyard very soon after Nantucket. So people who were coming up on the weekends and then had to go back and wear a suit Monday morning, they could wear a tie with a street sign of Martha's Vineyard or a map of Nantucket. And, it was like wearing a t-shirt, but they could wear it to work and feel great about it.
And you typify entrepreneurs in the sense that, one, you didn't have a business plan, and two, you just did it and asked a lot of questions. Go through Yellow Pages back when they had how you got this thing started. You wanted to do neckties. How do you make ties?
So, I was working at an ad agency, and Ian was working for a fashion PR company and travel and fashion. And we just started. Charles Schwab said the best place to start is with what you know and who you know and what you know. And we just decided to go through the Yellow Pages and got to a lot of dead ends and started asking questions. I think asking questions and listening as an entrepreneur have been the best advice that we could say. Is like, we've never taken no for an answer. And it's really about just pursuing things and finding and being solution oriented.
Well, being solution oriented, in business, you're always going to have crises, you're always going to have mistakes, and the key is how you respond. Early on, tell us the story about the 4th of July, where suddenly you discovered you're selling ties, but you forgot to bring them up, and what you did to remedy it instantly.
It was our very first day of business, and I was up on Martha's Vineyard. Shep was still down in Connecticut or New York, and we had pre-sold the day before. We were too nervous to tell people, in advance of our idea. We thought they would steal their idea. So Friday before the 4th of July, which was, I believe, a Saturday that year, we went down to a couple of stores and pre-sold them and guaranteed that they'd be there on their doorstep the next morning. When Shep arrived to Martha's Vineyard, he had taken one of the last ferries of the day. We unloaded the inventory and realized that what we thought was our prime tie, a street sign tie in the color red, was not in the car, and by accident had been left behind at the house. So in the middle of the night, we had a friend go get the ties from the house and drive them to the airport. And coincidentally,
you had to get a pilot too.
Yeah, our neighbor across the street worked for the FAA and had a small Cessna. So I think we spent about $400 in his fuel charges, and he flew back in the middle of the night to get the ties, landed back on Martha's Vineyard in the hours of dawn. We tagged them all and delivered them by 9 a.m. and never said a word. And it was. And
I think at the end of the day, or actually from the beginning of day one, it's always about working hard to make it look easy and delivering on the customer promise and the brand promise. And that's what we've done since day one. And we're so proud of our team because they've done things that rhyme with that on a daily basis. And that's why waking up and doing what we do is so fun.
And improvising. Bill Clinton visited the vineyard, liked to visit the vineyard, and you heard about a gift he got from a certain young woman, and one of you camped out to decide to go over with a bunch of ties around your neck and to the Clinton press office and say you wanted to give a tie. You're a young person then, wanted to give a tie to the president. You didn't get to see the president, but you did get on the evening news, which was good marketing. Tell us about that. It's a great story.
I was on the vineyard, and I think Shep was off island, and he called me. He said there's all sorts of news at the Eggertown Elementary School, which was the press headquarters, something about a tie that Monica Lewinsky gave the president, and he wore the day he testified, or something to that extent, like it was a secret signal. So there was no news that day, so that became the news. And we went down there, and I draped all the ties over me and kind of put my arms out like this and walked around like I was a street vendor. People thought I was crazy, and they asked me what I was doing. And exactly as you said, Steve, I said, I understand that the president likes wearing neckties from younger people, and I'm an entrepreneur in Martha's Vineyard. We started a company called Vineyard Vines, and we made all the national news networks for the 6 o'clock news or 6:30 news that night, which was great. And what was really fun about it is we did that and we didn't spend a dime on it. So we knew very early on the power of the press, and that you don't have to spend money to get the word out there. You can do interesting, creative things that resonate with people, and that has always been our goal. That if you're doing something that's worth sharing, you don't need to pay people to talk about it. You can just do it.